The content of this podcast is for informational and storytelling purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please consult a qualified healthcare professional for any medical concerns or decisions. This episode includes discussions of pregnancy loss and miscarriage, which may be distressing for some listeners. Please take care of yourself while listening and feel free to skip this episode if you need to. Ashley, thank you so much for being here. I just talked to Stephen, and I'm excited to get your perspective as well. So just starting out, can you share a little bit about your relationship with Stephen and how after you got married, you guys started thinking about becoming parents?
Yeah, so I'm sure he probably explained our meeting story, so I won't repeat that again. But yeah, we kind of grew closer over the pandemic because we were quarantining together, so it worked that way. He was a big support for me in nursing school, and we knew we always wanted children, even when we were just dating. That was always our goal. So yeah, after getting married, we were excited to kind of start that process, and it just, unfortunately, it's been a bit of a rocky road on that, but yeah.
Is there something in particular about Stephen that like really drew you to him as a partner?
There's a lot of things. I guess with first is knowing his history and what he's been through, very resilient, and handled it with grace and humor. And I thought that was very just amazing to see that in someone young, and that he was still very strong and wasn't really afraid of anything and was able to keep pushing through.
Yeah, I think that's definitely very cool. Yeah. And so when you got your first positive pregnancy test, mm-hmm. What was that like? What did that feel like to you?
It was a mixture of emotions. I think it took us a while to get there. So I think a little bit of that joy was taken a bit because I was like, oh, we're finally here, but is this real? Is it happening? Yeah. So once that kind of moved out of the emotion side, I felt excited. That was pretty much the biggest thing. We were so excited to tell everybody and didn't know if it was too soon or what. And yeah, but overall very happy.
And did you end up telling people pretty early on?
We did. I think I told my parents maybe like 2 weeks after we got a positive. I just couldn't contain it. And I was just so excited. We waited a little longer to tell his parents, just to, make sure things were moving in the right direction. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so when you realized that very early, when you realized something wasn't right that first time, what stands out in your memory from that?
I think just fear is the biggest thing. Not knowing what was happening, not knowing if it was normal, and then not knowing what the outcome would be was very scary.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you realized that you were having a miscarriage, did you immediately just like have a ton of grief, or how did that look like from your perspective?
I think the biggest thing was just being a bit numb to it at first. There's just a lot to take in at one time, a lot of information and a lot of physical things happening. So It was kind of hard to process that emotion until a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then with your second, Lily, I'm sure you were cautious. I think Stephen mentioned that. Yeah. And so at what point did you find out that something wasn't right? How many weeks were you?
We were probably 11, almost 12, I think, at that point.
Okay. And so you had gotten past that 9 from the first time, and probably were starting to feel a little optimistic.
Yep.
So then getting that news, what were those emotions like?
I think getting the genetic report back, and of course that was a Friday, and my doctor called and says we're going to have to, go to see the maternal fetal medicine. And so I think at that point, since there wasn't a whole lot of answers, but I knew if this is what it was not good. Mm-hmm. And I mean, as a nurse, I knew that as soon as reading it, I was like, oh, this is not good. So between those points, when we did some research and, obviously a genetic test isn't a diagnosis 100%. So it was a mixture of feeling hopeful, but also wanting to be a bit cautious just
Sure.
to not get your hopes up too much. It was a really hard balance there.
I can imagine that. And so during those conversations, when you guys were doing that research and all of that, how did you feel best supported by Stephen?
I think just hearing, because he's always on the positive, it's going to be okay. And I think that was good and bad for me. I think it was good to hear, like, it's going to be okay. But I was like, I don't know. How can you know? And then Are you
and
sure?
then,
You're not 100% sure.
Right. And then when it wasn't okay, I'm sure it was like, it's that feeling. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it difficult for you that he isn't super expressive? Like, is it difficult then for you to be really expressive and emotional, or is it okay?
It's getting better. I think at first it's a bit frustrating in a way, because I feel like I feel emotions very, very deeply.
Yeah.
He can tell you that. So to me, it can be frustrating because I kind of just want to level with someone about those things. And so it was hard. I think now I'm starting to understand a bit better on where he's coming from, and his lack of outward expression is not always a lack of inward expression. It's just a bit of a difference in how we process.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And so in that early time, either time, what do you feel like? So I know you said right when you got the news, his hopefulness was helpful. And then once you knew that it was going to be a loss, what did you find, I guess, was the most helpful thing about having him as your partner?
Probably just his presence, just being there, not necessarily any
physically
that could, nothing, because there's really nothing you can say to make it better.
Right.
So just knowing that he was there and he had my back and he was going to support no matter what the decision was or what we had to do, that was, I think, the most comforting thing.
Like knowing he's by your side no matter what.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you at any point, as you were getting used to Stephen's grief style and his way of coping, did you ever feel you had to sort of like dampen or push down some of your emotions or grief just because you were like, I don't know if I can feel like I can be as open or really let this out, not really understanding him yet?
I think to an extent, yes. Sometimes I didn't feel like I was maybe complaining too much, or that he was just like, oh, again, another thing we're going to talk about. But I think knowing now that he was probably just listening and not responding wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was just his way of doing it.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that these things bring that out for sure. Yeah. Like you start to figure it out. How did your family and friends show up for you best, did you find? Like, I think this is one of those situations where many of us who haven't experienced this kind of loss often, we don't always know the right things. I certainly know that there are wrong things to say, and there are things that people do and say that are not good. Yeah. But what did people do right around you?
I think at the time, like before the loss actually happened, not very many people knew, mainly just our close family. So, I mean, my parents were a big support. My mom was always there listening and wanting to just let me sound off to her with whatever I was feeling and just reassuring me that we were making the right decision and all of those things. Yeah. Afterwards, since Stephen shared on social media what was happening, then I had some friends that reached out. Someone sent us some flowers. I got some little cupcakes in the mail from one of my best friends. So just those little things to say like, hey, I'm here and I don't know what to say, but I'm just trying. That was probably the best thing I could have asked for.
I like that. And how do you feel like, obviously, I think Stephen is a bit more involved with social media and those kinds of things. Did you feel okay about that expression? Did that feel like one of his ways of grieving to you? Yeah,
I think to me, I think we differ on that a little bit. I'm a bit more private on those things. Knowing that that's how he likes to express himself, I felt like that was okay for him to do, and I'd have to be okay with a bit of discomfort on that.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, it was better for me to have it done that way as opposed to me reaching out and telling people myself. So I think,
or keeping it in, right? Like,
right.
which of what it might have translated to, like, just your friends not knowing that you needed that support.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you think, like, society-wise, right? Again, you're a nurse. You probably, have heard stories of people having loss and those types of things. But, like, now that you've experienced it, do you feel that there are ways that in society we, support people well? Or are there certain things that you feel like we're getting it wrong? I know a lot more now. Like, I've gotten emails from companies saying, like, we will take you out of any Mother's Day communications, and there's this like opt-in thing. Does that make you feel better, worse? Like, those types of accommodations, like, does that feel like it helps you feel seen? Or just tell me a little bit about what you've seen from people outside, like, your immediate circle, in terms of the way we all sort of talk about loss when it comes to pregnancy, and things like that. I'm just curious what your take is.
I think overall, there's a bit more visibility on it, and I think that's a good thing. I think that makes me feel better, as opposed to just keeping it in. Sometimes it feels like a taboo subject and no one wants to talk about it. So I feel at work a lot of people don't say anything, haven't said anything. So it's kind of a bit of an awkward, do I say something, do I not?
Right.
So I think having that visibility from a broader audience is good, and that hopefully people in the future don't feel as alone or isolated during that experience.
Yeah, I think that sounds really important. And I do think normalizing it, having these conversations and being open about it, is how we do make people feel less isolated. And so I just so appreciate you sharing. And then obviously, like, during this time, so it sounds like your marriage has evolved a little bit just from the experience of loss, period. You're getting to know Stephen in a way that you didn't before, right? Because it's not like you meet someone and say, what is your grieving style? So you don't know that until you experience it. So how have you felt that these things have impacted your relationship with Stephen?
I think it's made a very good positive impact. I think, I guess when you're married younger, you don't always have these experiences or don't expect them to happen early on. So I think it was a good learning experience for both of us, and a good way that we got a little closer and know each other a little bit better, and know for the future. I mean, hopefully this doesn't happen again, but if similar things happen again, we kind of understand each other a little bit better, and that divide isn't there as much. Yeah,
no, that makes so much sense. And I think it's right. It's like you don't know it till you go through it. So you can't have like prepped for it, or like I said, like had some sort of pre-marriage interview about these things. And so being able to sort of roll with those things and understand each other is super important. So personally, in the like days and weeks following your loss, what just on a very personal level, did you find helpful for you?
A couple things. I think at first it was just purely surviving and getting through the day. As time went on, just having people around talking, whether it be about her or not, just having some communication. And then I think progressing, just being able to have those conversations about her, talk about the experience, kind of backtrack and dig into it, just so I think Stephen said too, like feeling a bit numb through the process and looking back on that and saying, let's unpack what happened, since we weren't fully processing that at the right time.
Yeah.
So that's been helpful.
Yeah. I think that's an important piece of understanding that part of coping is sometimes being numb, right? Like compartmentalizing and just, it's that fake it till you make it mentality to a point. Yep. And then understanding that grief can be so, like circular, right? I think a lot of people say grief isn't something that we just sort of get through. It's something that we experience in different ways at different times, coming in waves and things like that. So being able to know that you have a system where when a wave comes, you're able to express it, I think is super important.
Yes.
And then, so I know Stephen mentioned that you've started therapy. Are you finding that that's helpful? Is there anything else, like journaling or anything like that that's kind of helped you through this?
Yeah, I think therapy's been a big help. I, of course, didn't really want to do it at first, but I think, especially knowing like how Steven is, I think I needed a bit of a different point of view and someone that could help me work through these bigger emotions that I just couldn't have those conversations with because he couldn't outwardly, and that's fine. That's
he's not a therapist. Yeah,
exactly. So I think I needed a professional to step in and help me through that part of it. I've been journaling. Well, I journaled ever since I got pregnant with her and just kind of wrote little bits and pieces. So that's evolved now into me just talking to her after the fact, and just that's been very helpful. And yeah, I just think us just not moving on with life, but just moving forward and having our moments and our memories now is good. But like life doesn't stop when these things happen, and we have to find a way to move forward with it.
I think that's important. Has this experience changed the way you look at motherhood and like family now that you've gone through this?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's changed a lot of perspective in me of how precious life is, and how just because you want a family doesn't mean you get it easily. And it's not always a very clear road. It can be difficult. But I think that'll make me appreciate it a lot more once I get that opportunity.
Yeah, I think so. And then if a parent is listening that's been through this, is there any bits of wisdom, like anything that you feel that you would like to share that could help someone feel a little less alone, or anything like that you think might have helped with your grief or is continuing to help?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of quote my therapist on this, and she says that this sucks, this isn't fair, and it's hard, and that's okay. And you're allowed to feel whatever you need to feel about it, but you can't stay there, and you have to find a way to still enjoy your life, still move forward, and still remember and grieve when you have to grieve, but don't be stuck.
Yeah, don't get stuck. I think that's really good. I often feel like pain and hurting and these things, they come in, we invite them in and we listen to what they're teaching us, and then we show them the door when it's time to move forward. So I think that's great. That's really, really good advice. And so for you, do you feel like healing is just a continual process as you move through, continue to be hopeful? Does healing sort of look like an ever continuing thing?
Yeah, I think healing is going to always be a thing, even as I'm probably an old person as well. I think there's always things to grow and improve on, and I don't think this experience will ever not hurt, and I don't think it'll ever leave me. I think I have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ashley. I really, really appreciate you sharing with us and helping us understand the dynamic between you and Steven. I think it's important to understand that every couple is going to deal with these things very differently, and some things can be super helpful and some aren't. But I think even you chatting a bit about your therapist is super helpful, because oftentimes we do put so much pressure on our partners to be everything to us, and that's not fair either, right? So I think it's like by removing that expectation, it allows you to grieve together, heal together in a way that's more, feels right. So anyway,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.